Welcome to Calmer, Easier, Happier Boys. Today we're talking about top tips for bringing out the best in boys. I'm Noelle Janice Norton, and I'm the creator of a parenting program that's called Calmer, Easier, Happier Parenting. And I've had over 5 decades of experience working with all sorts of families with all sorts of issues. And I'm going to be sharing my experiences with you today. We have some people watching us as a watch party. So if that's the case for you, do let us know. And feel free to tag your friends. And let us know where you're watching from, because we've had viewers from all around the globe. So now we're going to talk about boys. Boys are different from girls. It used to be politically incorrect to say that, but nowadays everybody acknowledges that boys are different from girls. And boys have lots of positive qualities that deserve to be celebrated. But in addition to that, parents of boys do have concerns and worries and things that annoy them about boys. Some of those things are the noise that's associated with boys, the mess, the lack of eye contact and poor social skills, a lack of academic focus, aggression and competitiveness. Those are the sorts of things that parents are concerned about. So I'm going to be talking to you about strategies that will improve all those issues. I'll be giving you a brief outline of 5 strategies. And the reason it's brief is because I've only got a half an hour. And I'll be able to explain to you a bit about each of the strategies. But then in my books, I go into more detail. Parents tell me that the things that they want from their boys are they want their boys to be more cooperative, just to do what they're told without such a fuss, to be more confident, more motivated, more self-reliant, and more considerate. So those are the things that we're going to be focusing on. The first strategy that I want to share with you has to do with lifestyle. And lifestyle, to me, it has 4 specific elements: sleep, nutrition, exercise, and screen time. So if we start with sleep, everybody feels better when they get enough sleep. Everybody behaves better when they get enough sleep. So one of the things I recommend is put your sons to bed earlier than you currently are. And they may make a fuss for a little while, but don't let that deter you. And you'll see within a week or 2, you'll start seeing significantly improved behavior and even self-esteem. Nutrition is about optimal nutrition, not just good enough nutrition. Most children end up having more of the sweet foods and the high-fat foods and the high-salt foods that they love and pester for, but really their behavior, their emotions, everything will improve when they have significantly less of all of that. So one of the things I recommend is have any food treats outside of the house. That way they're not at home beckoning from the cupboard, and so there'll be a whole lot pestering, less pestering about it. Exercise. We know that boys have tons of energy and they need to burn off that energy. And you might assume that what with PE and games at school and off to school sports, that they're getting enough exercise. But actually a lot of those organized movement activities include quite a lot of waiting around time. So you can't count on them really burning off all that excess energy. So it might be really useful, for example, to take them straight from picking them up from school, take them to the park for an hour or half an hour. And in case you're thinking that that will delay the whole evening routine, actually usually it speeds it up because it goes more smoothly once the boys have gotten that out of their system. So we've talked about sleep, we've talked about nutrition, we've talked about exercise, and the fourth element of lifestyle is screens. And screens have an effect on our brains, and they particularly seem to have more of an effect on boys' brains, making boys more distractible, more grumpy, often more aggressive. So definitely no screens before school, but also no screens before anything that requires thought and concentration, which would be homework, music practice. So the less time boys spend in front of a screen, the better. I'm not talking about a complete ban, but keep it, you may need to drastically limit it. So that's the first strategy. The second strategy that I want to talk about is called descriptive praise. And descriptive praise, in case you don't know, is a way of responding when our child does the right thing, or almost the right thing. Because we're busy people and we are often preoccupied, so it's very easy to take good behavior for granted and notice and mention when things go wrong. And unfortunately, all that does is reinforce in your son that he's the kind of kid that's always getting told off. So we need to notice and mention the okay behavior, even if it's not quite up to the standard we'd like. So an example that a parent told me about the other day was that her son is supposed to hang up his coat when he comes home from school on a hook that's the right level for him. It's right there. He should be able to do it, but he usually throws it on the floor. Well, this time he didn't throw it on the floor. He threw it onto a chair. And she was about to scold him, and she didn't. She remembered to praise him. And she said, "You didn't leave your coat on the floor. You put it on a chair, so now nobody's going to step on it." And he looked at her like she was nuts, but then he went over to the coat, took it off the chair, and hung it up. So I can't guarantee that that will happen every time, but the more you descriptively praise the okay behavior, the more of it you'll get. The third strategy that I want to talk about is special time, which is a bit of a misnomer because it sounds as if it's a special outing or a special treat, and it isn't. What's special about special time is that it's one parent with one child doing something that you both enjoy, that's not in front of a screen, that doesn't cost money, and that's not about a food treat. So what you do with your son during this special time can be very prosaic. It can be cooking together. It could be folding the laundry. It could be digging for worms in the garden. It could be going to Sainsbury's. And of course, it could be playing games as well. And what special time does, well, there are a number of benefits. One of the things that it does is because you're not distracted by having to deal with the sibling rivalry that is always, even if only slightly, it's always an undercurrent when the siblings are together, you can just focus on your son. And because you're just focusing on him, he can just focus on you. So it brings out the best in both of you. It leads to making lovely memories, and it reawakens in your son that natural urge, which can get buried, that natural urge to want to please you. So it will improve behavior and self-esteem. The fourth strategy that I want to give you is called a think-through. And a think-through is a way of making sure that your son knows what he's supposed to do in a certain situation, and how and when and where. Usually, because we're busy people, we often forget to tell children what they're supposed to do and how, and we mention it after they've done it wrong, as telling them off, which isn't effective. Or if we do remember to say it before the event, often we say it in a sort of exasperated way because we're thinking about the times in the past when they did it wrong. But with the think-through, the parent isn't telling at all. The parent is asking, and your son will be answering. And as he answers, he's visualizing himself doing it properly. So you'll be asking him questions about what he should do in certain situations, how, where, when. For example, you could say, when we go to Aunt Sally's on Saturday, and she says, "Hello, Ethan," what are you going to say? And where are you going to look? And then your son will say, I should say, "Hello," and I'll look her in the face. And then you can praise him that he knew exactly the right thing to do. And the more often you're willing to do think-throughs, the more vivid that mental image becomes in his brain, and it's soon transferred into the long-term memory. And the long-term memory is the repository of habit. So by the time it's lodged in the long-term memory, it's much, much easier for your son to remember to do it without even trying hard to remember. It'll just start to feel like it's becoming a habit. And then the fifth strategy is about positive male role models. So if a boy has a father at home, then obviously there's a built-in, live-in, positive male role model. But for many children, that's not the case. And I just want to remind you that there are lots of positive male role models around. Obviously, there's grandfathers, there's uncles, maybe even an older brother, teachers, scout leader, sports coach, somebody at church. And you can even have a positive role model who's a character in a book or in a movie. So we can draw on all of those people, real and fictional, to show boys the good qualities that can be part of being a man. So that's a quick gallop through the strategies, and I want to share with you some questions that parents have asked me. So let me get my notes. One of the questions was, what do I do when my son is too rough with his younger sister? And of course, the tendency is to just shout or bark or just correct him. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. I really wish it did, because it's so easy for us to tell kids off. But it doesn't work, because the more a child is corrected, the more he thinks of himself as somebody who always has to be corrected because they're always doing that thing wrong. So we definitely want to use descriptive praise to notice and mention all of the times when he's not bothering his younger sister. It could even be that she's on the other side of the room and he's not even noticing her. And you could say, "You're not too close to your sister," or "You're not waving your hands in her face," or "You're not bothering her, you're leaving her alone." And then, of course, the times when he doesn't make fun of her, you could mention that. Or the times when he helps her with something, even if it's minute, you can mention those times. And what that does is it helps your son to reinvent himself as somebody who's helpful and kind, rather than too rough and too annoying. Now let me find another question. Oh yes, this one was from a mother who was talking about her two sons are so competitive with each other. They're always boasting, "I've got more strawberries than you," and if they don't, "My strawberries are bigger than yours," or "I got to do this first," and then the other one is always complaining. And generally, the way parents handle this, which seems like it would make sense, unfortunately doesn't work. The way it seems like what you should do is just try to explain to them that everybody's got the same amount, or it doesn't matter who has a little bit more or who gets there first. But for boys who tend to be competitive, as many of them are, that just doesn't change their attitude about it. So recognizing that the usual way of responding isn't working, and that part of why they're doing it is they're in the habit of getting a particular response from you. So what I recommend is what I call the 5-second rule for parents. So if a child is saying something like, "Well, and he's more than me. Instead of saying, don't be ridiculous, or instead of saying, no, he didn't, dear, I made sure. None of that. Just say nothing. You're not ignoring, you're just waiting. Say nothing and wait until there's approximately about 5 seconds of no whinging or complaining or misbehaving. At which point, you could then descriptively praise. You could say, now nobody's complaining about who got more. So you're making exactly the same point, but you're making it in a positive way, and you're demonstrating to your child that actually he is capable of not complaining about it. So I think I have another question from a parent. A parent asked, oh yes, this one was, my son always resists tidying his room. His sister tidies her room without a fuss. What can I do? It was this mother's plea. Now, there's a number of things to say. One is that if tidying the room happens right before bed, that is the least appealing time for the child, because all that's going to happen afterwards is they have to go to bed, which is often not their favorite activity. So, first of all, children need to tidy their room every day, because otherwise it gets too messy, and then it's very daunting, very overwhelming. So every day, and then it can be done in 5 minutes. But have your son do it before an activity that he looks forward to. So if it's a day when he is allowed some screen time, have him do it before that. He'll be very motivated. Many boys are really keen to get to their meal, so you could do it before the meal. That sort of thing. Or if you're going to be playing Legos with him, have him do the tidying up before that. The other thing that I wanted to say about tidying is when a boy is resisting tidying, often parents think, oh, I don't want the confrontation, I don't want the hassle, I haven't seen him all day, I just want to have a nice time, so I'm just going to do the tidying for him, so that it's just not a problem. And of course, it's not a problem in that moment, but you're making a problem for yourself in the long term. So what I recommend is to say, I will keep you company while you tidy. I won't do it for you because it's your job and you don't have to tidy my things. I won't tidy your things, but I'll keep you company. And if you do want to help him, which you might if there's tons of stuff lying around, make sure that you only put one thing away for each thing that he puts away. And don't you be the one to start. He has to put something away, and then you'll put something away. And make it clear that that's what you're doing, because then he'll be more motivated to put things away. So in case you're thinking that you would rather avoid this whole thing and just let the mess build up, it's not going to get any better. So daily tidying. And in fact, I know a number of families who have twice daily tidying, before lunch, let's say at a weekend, and before dinner. And that way it only takes a few minutes. So those are the questions that have come in. And it's time now for me to say that I've enjoyed sharing these strategies with you, and I'm delighted that you have been watching and listening. And please do send in your feedback, because I'm hoping that you'll be excited to put these strategies into practice, and then you can let us know what results you're getting. Please share these strategies with your friends and like them. I hope you do like them. And let us know how you get on with them. And that's it, really. Oh, I know what I wanted to say is I had mentioned that there's more in-depth information in my books. So I've got a series of books called Calmer, Easier, Happier. There's Calmer, Easier, Happier Parenting, Calmer, Easier, Happier Homework, Calmer, Easier, Happier Boys, which obviously is very relevant for tonight, and Calmer, Easier, Happier Screen Time. So you can get those on Amazon, either as a paperback or an ebook or an audio version if you're the kind of person who prefers to listen, or if you've got some commute time. You can also get more information on our website. We've got a number of articles on our website, including 2 that are specifically about bringing out the best in boys. And we've just started a YouTube channel, so we don't have a vast amount on it yet, but we do have some videos and podcasts that are specifically about boys, plus other parenting topics. And we're doing our next Facebook Live on Wednesday the 24th, and the topic is going to be calmer, easier, happier screen time. And please do let us know which topics you're interested in, because we'll get around to all of them. Another thing that just occurred to me is that if you find, by putting these things into practice, that you have a question that is not addressed, either in this Facebook Live or in the books and the articles, if it's specific to your family, then also one of the things that I do is private consultations via Skype, so that might be of interest to you. And I think the last thing to say is, if you go to our website, you can get a free ebook about descriptive praise. So I think that I've covered everything. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.